Have you ever wondered what if the person texting you the least is actually the one loving you the most? What if you've been mistaking attention for love, while real love has been standing quietly beside you all along? By the end of this video, you'll recognize the hidden signs that separate someone who craves your attention from someone who treasures your soul. And once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. Before we begin, answer this honestly in the comments. Have you ever felt more understood by someone's silence than by another person's endless words? If your answer is yes, stay until the end, because the final sign changes everything. Most people spend their lives believing that love is measured by the amount of attention they receive. A quick reply, endless compliments, constant messages, and visible displays of affection seem to prove that they matter. Yet attention is one of the easiest things to give, because it often follows excitement, novelty, or personal desire. It moves wherever the mind is entertained. Today, it is focused on you. Tomorrow, it may be drawn elsewhere. The tragedy begins when attention is mistaken for something permanent, because what depends on changing emotions rarely survives the inevitable shifts of life. There is a deeper dimension of human connection that cannot be measured by frequency or intensity. It is found in the quiet recognition of another person's inner existence. A person who values your essence does not become captivated merely by what you offer to the world. They are drawn toward the invisible qualities that remain when achievements disappear, appearances change, and circumstances become difficult. They notice the courage hidden beneath your uncertainty, the kindness behind your guarded expressions, and the silent battles that have shaped your character. While others may celebrate your brightest moments, they remain present during your darkest ones, not because suffering is attractive, but because they understand that the human spirit cannot be separated into worthy and unworthy parts. This kind of connection is unsettling because it asks you to stop performing. Many people unconsciously create identities designed to earn admiration. They become successful, agreeable, entertaining, or endlessly available, hoping these qualities will secure love. Yet every mask creates an exhausting question. If I stop being this person, will anyone remain? When someone truly values your essence, that question begins to lose its power. Their care is not dependent upon your ability to impress them. They remain interested in your inner world even when you are quiet, uncertain, or imperfect. The remarkable paradox is that genuine love often appears less dramatic than attention. It is patient rather than urgent, steady rather than intense, and calm rather than possessive. It does not constantly demand reassurance because its foundation lies beyond temporary emotions. Like roots hidden beneath the earth, its strength is invisible until the storms arrive. When life strips away status, confidence, and certainty, attention often disappears first. What remains is the person who never loved the performance, but quietly recognized the enduring reality beneath it. From the moment people become aware of the world around them, they begin collecting invisible masks. Some learn that confidence earns admiration, so they hide their fear. Others discover that kindness gains acceptance, so they bury their anger. Many become the dependable one, the successful one, the cheerful one, believing that these carefully shaped identities are the price of belonging. Over time, the mask becomes so familiar that it is mistaken for the self. Yet beneath every polished expression lives another reality, a quieter, less predictable part that carries forgotten dreams, unspoken wounds, private doubt, and emotions that have never found the courage to appear in the light. The greatest difficulty is not that people wear masks, but that they eventually become imprisoned by them. Every interaction turns into a performance, every conversation into a subtle attempt to protect an image. The fear is no longer rejection alone. It is the possibility that someone might discover the imperfect person hidden beneath the carefully arranged exterior. This creates a strange loneliness, because admiration directed toward the mask can never satisfy the person concealed behind it. No matter how much praise is received, a silent question continues to echo within. Would they still choose me if they saw everything I keep hidden? A connection rooted in genuine affection begins to dissolve this invisible prison. Such a person notices the moments when your smile seems heavier than usual, when your confidence sounds rehearsed, or when your silence carries more meaning than your words. Instead of demanding that you maintain the same flawless image, they create an atmosphere where honesty feels safer than perfection. Their presence slowly weakens the need to perform because they respond to authenticity rather than appearances. This process is often uncomfortable because the mask was never created without purpose. It protected vulnerable places from disappointment, ridicule, and abandonment. Removing it can feel like stepping into unfamiliar territory without armor. Yet every genuine relationship requires this quiet risk. Trust cannot grow where only polished versions of ourselves are allowed to exist. The remarkable transformation occurs when you realize that the qualities you feared would drive someone away become the very qualities that deepen understanding. Your uncertainty invites compassion instead of judgment. Your flaws become evidence of humanity rather than failure. In that space, identity is no longer built upon maintaining an image, but upon the freedom to exist without constantly proving that you deserve to be seen. Silence is one of the most misunderstood experiences in human relationships. Many people interpret it as distance, rejection, or the beginning of an ending. They become anxious when messages are delayed, conversations grow shorter, or moments of quiet replace constant interaction. This reaction reveals how easily the mind equates communication with connection. Yet words can be abundant without carrying sincerity, and endless conversations can exist between two people who never truly know one another. Silence, on the other hand, has an unusual ability to expose what a relationship is actually built upon. If connection depends entirely on constant stimulation, then quiet becomes a threat. But if it is rooted in genuine understanding, silence loses its power to create fear. There are people who fill every empty moment with noise because they are afraid of what stillness might reveal. Continuous conversation can become a subtle way of avoiding vulnerability, keeping attention fixed on events, opinions, and distractions rather than deeper emotions. In contrast, meaningful relationships gradually develop a different rhythm. They no longer require endless reassurance because trust begins to replace uncertainty. Two people can share the same room without speaking, yet feel completely understood. The absence of words is not experienced as emptiness, but as peace, because neither person feels pressured to perform or entertain the other. This kind of silence also becomes a language of observation. A person who truly values your inner world begins to notice what your quietness communicates. They recognize when your silence reflects exhaustion rather than indifference, reflection rather than avoidance, or emotional weight rather than emotional distance. Instead of immediately demanding explanations, they become attentive to your emotional reality. Their patience communicates something words often cannot, the willingness to remain present without forcing you to become someone else for their comfort. The deeper significance of silence lies in what it reveals about security. When two people trust each other, they no longer feel compelled to constantly prove their importance. They understand that genuine connection is not maintained by the quantity of interaction, but by the quality of presence. Moments of quiet become spaces where acceptance quietly replaces expectation, where understanding grows without dramatic declarations, and where affection is expressed through calm companionship rather than endless conversation. In such relationships, silence is not the absence of love, but one of its most honest expressions, revealing a bond that no longer depends on constant attention to confirm that it is real. One of the clearest differences between attachment and genuine love is revealed in the way each responds to change. Attachment often desires stability because it depends upon familiarity and predictability. It quietly hopes that the other person will remain the same, think the same, and behave in ways that continue to satisfy emotional needs. Growth, however, has a way of disrupting these expectations. As people mature, they question old beliefs, develop new ambitions, heal from past wounds, and discover strengths that were once hidden. Every stage of inner development changes the way a person relates to the world. And this transformation can either deepen a relationship or expose that it was built upon control rather than understanding. A person who values your inner life does not measure your worth by how useful or convenient you remain to them. Instead, they become genuinely interested in the person you are becoming. They recognize that growth is not always comfortable. It often requires leaving behind habits, fears, and identities that once felt safe. During this process, you may become quieter, more confident, more independent, or less willing to tolerate situations that once drained your spirit. Someone who seeks possession experiences these changes as a threat because your evolution reduces their ability to influence or define you. Someone who genuinely cares experiences these same changes as evidence that you are moving closer to your authentic self. This perspective transforms the meaning of support. Encouragement is no longer limited to celebrating visible achievements or public success. It includes patiently standing beside someone while they confront difficult truths about themselves. Real care does not rush another person's journey or demand immediate results. It understands that lasting transformation happens gradually, often through uncertainty, setbacks, and moments of confusion. Instead of criticizing temporary struggles, it provides the emotional safety necessary for honest self-exploration. There is also a quiet humility in this kind of connection. It accepts that love cannot remain alive by freezing another person in a familiar version of themselves. Every individual carries possibilities that even they have not yet discovered. To genuinely care for someone means accepting that these possibilities may lead them into unfamiliar directions, changing old patterns and reshaping shared experiences. Rather than resisting this movement, authentic affection makes room for it. It understands that the purpose of love is not to preserve who someone once was, but to witness the unfolding of who they are capable of becoming, even when that unfolding requires patience, courage, and the willingness to embrace an uncertain future. If this message is helping you see relationships differently, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. There are conversations the world rarely has, and if you're searching for something deeper than appearances, you're exactly where you belong. Most people hope to be loved for their strengths, while quietly fearing they will be abandoned because of their weaknesses. From an early age, many learn to hide the parts of themselves that seem unacceptable. Mistakes are concealed, painful memories are buried, and uncomfortable emotions are locked away behind carefully controlled behavior. This creates the illusion that love must be earned through perfection. The more flawless the image, the safer the relationship appears. Yet this belief carries a hidden burden, because every concealed flaw becomes another secret that must be protected. Instead of feeling truly known, a person becomes exhausted by the constant effort of maintaining an identity that leaves little room for genuine humanity. A relationship built only upon admiration is often fragile because admiration depends on what is visible. It celebrates talent, confidence, beauty, or success, but struggles when disappointment, fear, or failure enters the picture. The moment imperfections become impossible to hide, the foundation begins to shake. This is why many people experience deep anxiety whenever they reveal their vulnerabilities. They expect honesty to become the very reason they lose the affection they have worked so hard to preserve. Genuine affection follows a different path. It does not ignore flaws, excuse harmful behavior, or pretend that weaknesses do not exist. Instead, it recognizes that every person carries contradictions. The same individual capable of remarkable kindness may also experience insecurity. Someone admired for strength may privately wrestle with doubt. Courage often exists beside fear, patience beside frustration, and hope beside despair. A deeper form of love accepts these opposing realities without reducing a person's entire identity to a single weakness or failure. This acceptance creates an environment where transformation becomes possible. When people no longer fear immediate rejection for every imperfection, they become more willing to confront the parts of themselves that need healing. Defensiveness gradually gives way to honesty because there is no longer a constant need to protect a carefully constructed image. Growth begins with acknowledgement, and acknowledgement requires a space where truth can exist without instant condemnation. There is a profound difference between tolerating someone's flaws and understanding them. Tolerance often carries quiet resentment, while understanding seeks the experiences, wounds, and fears that shape those imperfections. It does not justify destructive actions, but it recognizes that every visible behavior has invisible roots. This perspective allows compassion to exist alongside accountability, making it possible to see another person not as a collection of defects to be judged, but as a complex human being whose imperfections reveal the unfinished story of a life still unfolding. Many people mistake closeness for possession. They believe that the stronger the relationship becomes, the more control they should have over another person's choices, time, emotions, and attention. At first, this desire can disguise itself as care. Constant check-ins appear thoughtful. Endless demands for reassurance seem romantic, and the expectation to always be available is interpreted as proof of devotion. Yet beneath these behaviors often lies an unspoken fear. The fear that if another person becomes fully independent, they may no longer choose to stay. Instead of trusting the bond itself, insecurity begins to build invisible chains, hoping that dependence will succeed where genuine connection feels uncertain. Freedom challenges this illusion because it allows love to exist without coercion. A relationship rooted in inner respect does not require one person to become smaller, so the other can feel secure. It recognizes that every individual possesses a unique inner life shaped by personal dreams, values, struggles, and aspirations that deserve space to develop. Rather than viewing independence as a threat, genuine affection understands that personal growth strengthens the relationship by allowing both individuals to bring a richer, more authentic version of themselves into the connection. This perspective transforms the meaning of loyalty. Loyalty is no longer measured by constant proximity or unquestioning obedience. Instead, it is reflected in the willingness to honor another person's individuality, even when their decisions differ from personal expectations. A person who truly values your inner world does not demand that you abandon your passions, silence your opinions, or sacrifice your identity simply to preserve harmony. They understand that love loses its meaning when it is purchased through self-betrayal. A connection maintained by fear may appear stable on the surface, but beneath it grows quiet resentment, emotional exhaustion, and the gradual disappearance of authenticity. Paradoxically, freedom often creates deeper commitment than control ever can. When people know they are free to leave yet continue choosing one another, their presence carries genuine significance. Every act of care becomes voluntary rather than obligatory. Every sacrifice becomes meaningful because it is offered instead of demanded. This choice renews itself repeatedly, strengthening trust instead of replacing it with surveillance or suspicion. True intimacy is not created by eliminating distance, but by respecting the invisible boundaries that protect individuality. It allows two complete human beings to walk beside one another without attempting to absorb or dominate each other's identity. In that space, love ceases to be a struggle for ownership and becomes a quiet recognition that the deepest connections are sustained not by captivity, but by the freedom to remain fully oneself while continuing to choose another person with sincerity. It is remarkably easy to be present when life is effortless. Celebrations attract company, success invites admiration, and moments of happiness naturally gather people together. During these seasons, affection often appears abundant because very little is being asked of anyone. Smiles are exchanged without difficulty, conversations flow easily, and promises seem sincere beneath favorable circumstances. Yet comfort rarely reveals the true nature of a relationship. It is only when certainty begins to disappear that the difference between performance and genuine presence slowly becomes visible. Adversity strips away convenience, exposing whether a person's care was rooted in temporary emotion or in a deeper commitment to another human being. Many relationships unconsciously revolve around appearances. Kind words are spoken when they are easy to say. Thoughtful gestures are offered when they receive appreciation, and loyalty is displayed while it costs very little. These actions may look convincing, but they remain tied to conditions. The moment difficulties arise, enthusiasm fades, patience becomes scarce, and attention shifts elsewhere. What once seemed like unwavering affection reveals itself as something sustained only by favorable circumstances. In this way, hardship becomes an unexpected mirror, reflecting motives that comfort had successfully concealed. Someone who genuinely values your inner life responds differently during difficult seasons. They do not disappear simply because your struggles are inconvenient or emotionally demanding. Their presence is not dependent upon your ability to entertain, inspire, or remain emotionally strong. Instead, they understand that moments of weakness are not interruptions to a relationship, but opportunities to demonstrate its depth. They may not always possess the perfect words or immediate solutions, yet they continue showing up with consistency. Sometimes, the greatest act of care is simply refusing to abandon someone when life has become difficult. This kind of presence also requires patience. Pain often changes a person's behavior. Fear may create silence, disappointment may produce withdrawal, and exhaustion may make ordinary conversations feel impossible. Someone seeking only pleasant experiences interprets these changes as rejection or inconvenience. Someone who truly cares recognizes them as expressions of inner struggle rather than personal attacks. Instead of demanding that you quickly return to your usual self, they allow space for healing without making your suffering a burden you must hide. The deepest measure of affection is rarely found in dramatic declarations or carefully chosen words. It is revealed through quiet consistency when circumstances no longer reward kindness with immediate gratitude or recognition. Real presence continues after excitement fades, after appearances lose their influence, and after life becomes unpredictable, proving that commitment is not sustained by perfect moments, but by the willingness to remain beside another person when perfection has disappeared. Every human being carries hidden possibilities that often remain unnoticed, not because they do not exist, but because life gradually teaches people to doubt themselves. Childhood disappointments, repeated criticism, failure, rejection, and comparison slowly shape an inner voice that becomes more familiar than encouragement. Over time, individuals begin to define themselves by their limitations rather than their potential. They stop seeing the quiet strengths that once came naturally, and instead focus almost entirely on perceived weaknesses. This narrowing of self-perception creates an invisible prison where identity is built from old wounds instead of unexplored possibilities. One of the most extraordinary experiences in any relationship occurs when another person notices qualities within you that you have forgotten or never recognized. They observe courage where you see fear, resilience where you remember only pain, wisdom where you believe there is confusion, and kindness where you assume you have failed. Their perception is not based on idealization or empty compliments. It comes from paying close attention to the deeper patterns of your character, rather than judging isolated moments of weakness. They recognize the direction of your spirit, even when your current circumstances prevent you from seeing it yourself. This kind of recognition differs greatly from ordinary praise. Compliments often celebrate visible achievements, appearance, intelligence, or success because these qualities are easy to observe. Inner recognition reaches beyond what is immediately visible. It notices patience developed through suffering, compassion shaped by personal hardship, integrity maintained despite temptation, and quiet perseverance that continues without applause. These qualities rarely receive public admiration, yet they form the deepest foundations of character. Such recognition has a transformative effect because people often begin to grow into the vision held by someone who genuinely understands them. When another person consistently reflects back your forgotten strengths, your relationship with yourself slowly begins to change. Doubt loses some of its authority, not because all insecurity disappears, but because your identity is no longer determined solely by the harsh judgments you have carried for years. You begin to explore possibilities that once felt impossible, trusting abilities that had remained hidden beneath fear and disappointment. The remarkable paradox is that someone who truly sees your inner nature does not attempt to create a different version of you. They simply illuminate what has always been present beneath uncertainty, allowing forgotten qualities to emerge into conscious awareness. Their belief does not replace your own journey of self-discovery, but it serves as a quiet reminder that beneath every fear, every failure, and every period of confusion, there remains an untarnished potential waiting to be recognized, trusted, and gradually brought into the light. As you leave this conversation, remember one truth that quietly reshapes every relationship. Attention can be borrowed, but the soul cannot be imitated. Many people will admire your brightest moments, applaud your achievements, and celebrate the version of you that is easy to love. Yet very few will remain when the applause fades, when certainty disappears, and when all that is left is the unguarded reality of who you are. Do not measure love by how loudly it announces itself. Measure it by what remains when life becomes difficult. Measure it by the person who welcomes your honesty instead of demanding perfection, who encourages your growth instead of fearing it, who respects your freedom instead of controlling it, and who recognizes your hidden strength when you have forgotten it yourself. The rarest connections are not built upon endless excitement, but upon quiet understanding. They ask for no performance, no disguise, and no constant proof of worth. In their presence you no longer struggle to become someone worthy of love because you are finally seen beyond appearances. So, ask yourself one final question. Who in your life loves the image you've created? And who loves the person you've been becoming all along? The answer may not only change the way you see others, it may change the way you finally learn to see yourself.